Hello everybody, Anna Sabramwoods here. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's session, I will be talking about how to become a master at e-learning. And I'm not talking about this because I think I'm a master at e-learning, but I'm talking about this because I've been observing my students and also myself, and I am working towards mastery, right? That's where I want to be. And I think some of these strategies that I've implemented and that my students are implementing, and I'm observing them as they're working through it, I think they're going to help you become better at what you do. So let me make sure that everybody is invited. If you're here, please do say hello. It's wonderful when I hear from you. Also, I absolutely love your feedback and your comments, and as they come up, I answer them if I can, and if not, I usually make sure that I answer them in a follow-up video because I do live sessions all the time. Now, if you want to get, notifications about when I go live, or if these are topics that you're interested in, do let me know in the comments, and also subscribe. You can actually add me, I think, as you can follow me so that you can get these notifications quickly. But other than that, let's get started, okay? Oh, and I see some people already here. Karen and Randy, sweet. All right. Hello. All right. So it's kind of funny. I run a private group, right, where we actually design interactive stories. And if you haven't seen an interactive story before, one of the things I think you should absolutely check out is brokencoworker.com. It's an interactive self-paced story. Don't go there now, but definitely go there, or pause this video if you're watching it later. Go there and experience it. Because one of the things that we're doing in this community is definitely trying to create things that have impact in the world. And one of the things that I found kind of cool is, I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy called BJ Fogg, but BJ Fogg is the guy who basically masterminded, as far as I'm concerned, how to hack engagement, right? And he said he's one of the guys who tutored the guys who developed Instagram and things like that, right? Like some of the biggest apps, the reason they're as addictive and prolific and behavior changing is because BJ Fogg had his magic little fingers in them. And he actually recently released a book called Tiny Habits, which you should read if you haven't yet. It's super awesome. One of the things I love about BJ Fogg is that he's one of those people who doesn't just preach what he's talking about, like what he's, selling. He actually applies it, right? So one of the things that he did is, he's a guy who plays with behavior. He plays with behavior modification. So then you're thinking, okay, how did he get good at it? And one of the ways he got good at it is by testing out the strategies on himself. And then, before he even launched Tiny Habits, the book, he actually tested out his strategies with, I think, over 4,000 students, people who could sign up to his little Tiny Habits program, which you can still do. So I suggest you do it. But one of the things that, he did is he said, okay, if I'm going to be a master at, behavior change, I'd better start hacking myself, right? Is this going to work on me? And that's what he did. So now he's able to do more push-ups than any of the people who he coaches in university, and he taught himself how to play the ukulele, I think probably the same way. So he's hacked and tested things on himself. So that's what I love. Because I think that in order to be in the learning space or be a master at anything, you have to apply this to yourself, right? Otherwise, if I'm not the kind of person who is a lifelong learner, and if I'm telling everybody, hey, you should go out there and do stuff and get feedback and then iterate it back in your work, and if I'm not doing that myself, that makes me an absolute hypocrite, right? And we had a conversation with somebody wonderful yesterday during a strategy session, and I'm like, what's driving you? And he's like, I'm telling people how to, I'm creating experiences that are in effect asking other people, right, to change their behavior, but I'm not applying any of that strategy myself. That makes me an absolute hypocrite. And I'm like, I get that, right? That's why BJ Fogg to me is an inspiration, because, the guy not only is talking about behavior change, but he's got huge pipes to prove that he was able to hack his own behavior, right? Which is super cool, right? Does it work on me? Will it work on others? And that's one of the reasons also I created Broken Coworker, is because I thought, you know, I could talk about and complain about how I want to change people's, you know, how I want to change the industry, how I think this is BS kind of learning. I hate, you know, click next and click and reveal stuff when, you know, you could do all that. I could go to all the forums and comment on them all and, you know, profess what I believe, but that doesn't actually change anything. And it actually, one of the things it does is you can talk about, I've heard people talk about how they wanted to craft meaningful experiences and how they would do it. But, you know, when rubber meets the road, you got to actually do it, because when you, through the action of doing it, you actually learn how to do it, right? And so that's why I built Broken Coworker. But then later I thought, hey, let's have other people do that as well, help them do that. And through the process of helping other people learn how to do that as well, I've learned a lot. And so these are the lessons that I've not only now I'm going to share with you have not come. I just wanted to give you some context about, you know, who is Anna? Why the hell is she talking about this stuff? What gives her the right to give us advice? You know, and I just wanted to share with you that I'm not pulling this out of like a bunch of manuals out there on how to, you know, be a good feedback person. These are things that, or how to get good at something. It's really me through project after project after project getting feedback from customers and clients, learning through these lessons painfully, and then now working with other people who are trying to apply the same lessons. This is how you get the advice that I'm giving you now. So it might not follow the same kind of weird, you know, protocols, but these are the things that I know are working in our community. So let me get to this now, okay? All right, enough of that preamble. If you're still here, you are so awesome. All right, so one of the things that is happening in our community is people are saying, this project, so what happened is I'm working on my interactive story, and then one of the comments yesterday during our sessions, which we actually run live group workshop sessions every Monday and every Monday night and every Friday morning. And so the common thread now is I got stuck and I went for a walk. And yesterday one of the students said, yeah, I was thinking about this project and I went on a walk for about 11 kilometer walk, right? And I'm like, okay, so, and I think this is kind of interesting to point out. The reason we're saying we're going for walks is because the interactive stories we're putting together, there's several reasons why people go for walks to think about them. One, it's a creative process. To craft a good thing, you got to step away from it and let it percolate, because as we know, you know, when you have your great ideas in the shower or you have your great ideas on a walk, it's because when you're working creatively, to sit in front of a computer or to look at something over and over again, you're kind of engaging the part of your mind that's kind of the busy, not creative one. You're tapping into the mind that is very focused on execution and tasks, right? And then what happens when you go away from your character, your story, your decision points, your consequences, the feedback you're going to give, and it's kind of like this big cohesive part. What happens is as you step away from it a little bit and you're able to give it some space, the subconscious mind, the one that has all the access to all the memories, all the ideas, everything that you have kind of underneath, that's the one that does the work, the creative work. And I think a lot of us want to get there, want to do our creative work, but we're trying to actually do it in front of the computer. And to be honest with you, you need to have that distance. You need to give sometimes things to breathe, room to breathe, but also, and if you can't go out for a walk, then, you know, go have a shower or something, you know, something where you're able to disengage a little bit. And it's really cool because these are the kinds of work that we're doing now. We're not thinking about, you know, technical issues, because that's already been solved. Like, we have frameworks and templates. What we're focusing now on is how do I create a compelling experience where people will actually emotionally connect and have an aha moment. Like, that's the kind of stuff we're doing. That to me is amazing. But here are some steps that I found that some of my best students who are most productive, most prolific in there, producing things, reiterating on things, these are the things that they're, and I personally have found are working when it comes to becoming awesome at anything. So, number one, you have to be okay with a shitty first draft. So, and this, the reason I'm saying this is because it's something I had to work through, right? One of the things that you realize, when you're sharing either with a peer or a client or customer or whatever, one of the things that happens is we think that the first thing that we produce has to be really, really, really freaking good because they're judging us. That's fine. They are judging us, yes, but not in the way that you think. Because if you see the end in sight, and you know that the final product is going to look like a broken coworker, it's going to look like a Haji Kamal, it's going to look like, how to survive a nuclear blast, whatever you've seen out there, that's awesome. You're going to take it there, right? But in the very beginning, what you're doing is you're really just fleshing out the ideas. And if you add too much love into that first draft and you get too attached to it, what happens is you get really sensitive to feedback. And it's hard for you to adjust anything. And also, one of the things that'll happen, and this has happened, is I've brainstormed ideas just to get the creative juices flowing and to give people something to critique. And sometimes 50 to 70% of my ideas get thrown in the trash. And that is fine. That's absolutely fine. Because what we're trying to do is we're just trying to, kind of like clear the mud and find where the 20% of awesomeness is going to be that we're going to focus on. And so the minute you invest too much time, too much effort, too much design, all those things, they start, you start kind of making it your baby. It stops being something that you can get good feedback on, right? It happens. So I suggest you are okay with your shitty first draft, knowing that this is just a draft and that it's going to be, critiqued. And this is what's cool, because once you get that draft out, people will start giving you ideas. Hopefully, it'll be people who, one, understand what you're trying to achieve, two, care about your outcome, care about you being successful, and three, they're honest. This is huge because I think one of the things that happens, and that's why you got to find, you can't take feedback from everybody, right? You can't take everybody's feedback on equal footing, and you have to be specific about the kind of feedback you're looking for. At different stages of your work, you're looking for different kinds of feedback, right? In the very beginning, when you're doing concept, you're saying, am I on the right path? I don't need details. Am I on the right path? And so one of the things that's difficult is, and I found that this is probably one of the hardest things ever. And we had this conversation yesterday, Ryan and I, because Ryan, who's my partner, he's basically the Articulate guru guy, right? He builds everything. And so we jump on the calls together. So I talk about help you with strategy and things like that during those group coaching calls. And Ryan opens up projects and basically talks about, his perspective and also how to make things work technically and things like that. But yesterday we were talking about how yesterday was kind of intense. We had 3 projects. We were just opening up from members and going, section by section, giving them feedback, how to improve it. We were talking through with the people that were there. What do you feel about it? Does it grip you emotionally? Does this make sense? We have such a robust community of experience. It's just awesome that you can pull on it. But what was really cool is then at the end, I talked to Ryan and I was like, some of those interactive stories we're creating are about really serious topics, really serious, impactful messages, and beyond bullying, right? They're going to have a huge impact on the world. And one of the things that's scary sometimes is being honest about what you think and why, right? Because we're kind of socialized to give people likes and say, way to go, you're a champ. And there is a part of that because having momentum is an amazing thing, right? Like you taking action and iterating is sick. Nobody does that. People just put stuff out there and they're like, okay, I'm done, right? Like these people are iterating. They're taking things and integrating that feedback into their work. But it's hard to teach yourself to be honest. And I think I figured out why. If you have a hard time being honest about the feedback you give, that has everything to do with you, right? Because you're scared to get honest feedback sometimes. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of funny because it's almost like that's the mirror, right? If you're like, yay, you're really scared about, don't go nay to me because I'm afraid it's gonna hurt me, right? So I find that people, and it's very evident, the people in the community who are the most honest are also the people in the community who also are okay with real feedback. And they actually say so. They're like, give me the real stuff. And they dish out the real stuff. So it's kind of awesome because you don't realize that by being really truthful and honest about the kind of feedback you give, you're actually more open-minded than to getting the feedback back. It's kind of crazy, but the mirror works like that. It really does, right? And we're not talking about feedback that's like you're trying to judge somebody. The feedback is about getting them to produce something better, because you know that once it hits the real world, that's where the real feedback is going to come back. So how can we make it the best experience right now before, goes live? So definitely it's about being okay with shitty first draft. 2, it's about being okay with real feedback and realizing that if you're hesitant to give people honest feedback, it's probably because you're hesitant to get some of your own. So you got to start building up that extreme transparency with who you are and where you need to grow. And a lot of people, this is where they stop, right? They're okay with putting out things, but they're not okay with getting that feedback or giving it. And so this is where they stop. So if you're afraid of that, you got to say, okay, this is where I need to grow, because that's going to stop you professionally. If you can't take feedback from people, and if it annoys you or if it aggravates you, think about it. Is this making me better or worse, right? That's what's going to take you to the next level. And that's one of the elements. It's not like one thing, right? The other thing is you got to be specific about what you want, right? So realize, like I said, at different stages of your project, you're going to look for different things. And so one of the things you want to do is make sure that the person who's reviewing understands what your aim is. If you just say, here it is, they'll get overwhelmed, or they'll focus on the things that they're good at, right? So if somebody's really good at the visual stuff, or that's where they like, they'll give you feedback about the visual stuff, and they will ignore the structure of the story or the character or the scenarios or the consequences, right? You got to be very laser focused on that, because like I said, at different stages you want different feedback because you're moving this project forward, right? And then the other thing I think is come in with that. It really is about coming in with that mindset that you are going to take it someplace. You have that vision. Keep on sharing that vision and keep pushing through and iterating. It's about iteration. Yesterday's call, one of the people that was there, she's working on something phenomenal. And the reason it's phenomenal is because we've actually talked about it in the group, and she's refined it and refined it. She's talked to a practitioner, she's refining it and just massaging it to be just a power punch, right, when it hits. That's crazy, right? She'll take the feedback and iterate on it, put it in right away, right? And she's like, this is the new version. And she'll actually tell us, she's like, I got this from here, I borrowed this from here, and you guys gave me feedback, this is what I've done. So she's sharing her momentum. And one of the things that happens is if you give somebody feedback and they're like, hey, you know what? I actually implemented it and I did it here. You're going to be more keen to look at it because they're taking your advice. So that's one of the things too, is like, hey, by the way, thanks for giving me feedback. This is what happened. I incorporated here. Thanks for giving me that idea. So that also makes a difference, because you're trying to get people to feel good about giving you feedback. And sometimes it's very hard, like I said, to be honest, but then you're honest and you're like, I love that. And I actually listened to it. Thank you so much, right? So you're adjusting and iterating, and it's like this beautiful evolution, right? It's like double helix spilling up. It's awesome. It's just, yeah, it just gives me shivers. Also, she stayed up till 3 a.m. in the morning to be on that live call because she wants to have momentum to move this project forward in a week, right? Like have the next iteration ready in a week. So that's just inspiring to me, because God damn it, that's that's a definite commitment. So it's all these things, right? And these are the kinds of people that get things done and get things launched. So I'm excited for you guys to see some of these next projects that are be coming out. As long as they're, some of them are actually really public. So once they're launched, it'll be like, I'll be shouting from the rooftops, because that's the coolest thing. So I hope you found this helpful. It really is it's not like I have a bulleted list of things. It's almost like we're stacking things, right? You're stacking things in your favor. And it's not like one thing is going to be the silver bullet. It's going to be a culmination of behaviors. And all you have to do is, I've given you some ideas. All you have to do is think about, if you're consistently facing the same kind of problem, right? And you want to take yourself to the next level, but there's always some kind of, this part always happens to me. Like, you're one of those, you look at the world and you're like, this always happens to me. Those people are always like, every time I do this, this always happens to me. You got to catch those phrases and be like, oh, wait a minute. This always happens to me. Who's the common denominator? What am I doing wrong? Where do I need to get a shift in perspective? Who can I ask to give me a completely different point of view on this? Because that means I might be messing something up, or I have a lesson to learn and it keeps on slamming me in the face and I'm missing it, right? What is it? So ask for different perspectives. Look at it and say, if you're constantly telling yourself, every time I work with this kind of person, I'm always getting this kind of feedback. Okay. Maybe it's something you're doing. Maybe it's a pattern you're repeating and you haven't learned to adjust. Check it out. It's worked for me. Those are like almost those lessons you keep on getting hit with. You got to start catching them, right? Where am I hitting a ceiling all the time? So get somebody who thinks completely different than you, who you probably disagree with, or who thinks, who doesn't have an issue with this, so you can see how they approach it. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is that you can't always see your blind spots, because they're your blind spots, right? And I could think of 5 different ways I could do this and that'll work for me. But then as somebody else takes that approach, they're like, but I have a different skill set or a different lens and I'm looking at it differently. And that's how you learn, is you can sometimes see through the cracks in that mirror and be like, oh man, look, there's a different way of looking at it from this vantage point. And that's what I'm trying to give you here is, we have a lot of people out there who give advice on how to get good at stuff. And I get that. For me, the number one thing is, how do we really get, how do you get masterful? I think you do that through constant putting yourself out there as far as work and seeing what works, what doesn't, and then iterating on that and then getting feedback from other people, right? You're not doing anything in a silo. So for me, it's really about applying, getting feedback, learning more, applying, getting feedback, learning more, and iterating and iterating and iterating and iterating and iterating, and getting comfortable with the fact that this is all iteration, always, right? So if you are already somebody who's already really good at learning, I'm looking for e-learning development, or you're already kicking butt and taking names, but you're looking for a way to really impact people through storytelling and really craft some powerful experiences that give people ahas. Now, I know some of you might, look at Broken Coworker and be like, oh yeah, Anna, that's interesting, that's nice, but there's actually a framework and a system underneath that anybody can use, and my students are using it right now. But one of the things that I find, which is we get a little bit cynical about this, and I never want to be cynical about this. If you're looking at something on a computer, which is e-learning, and we all hate e-learning, we do, that's just consensus, right? But if you're looking at something and it actually helps you see something a different way, makes you laugh about, situations in your life, makes you reflect on something that happened to you earlier that day. If you have an experience that does that and it's called e-learning, I think that's powerful. I think that's a win. And I want more of that. I want to produce more of that, right? That's, for me, that's my drug, right? And it's funny because now coming back to BJ Fogg said that the only way to change people's behaviors is through three things. And I probably won't remember the three things, but one of them is change the environment that you're in. Another one is make the changes terribly tiny so that they're kind of built into like your everyday life, right? So you stack little things. And then the third one is give people an epiphany. So a lot of times an epiphany is that aha, like, oh my God, right? Oh my God, something happened. A lot of people have epiphanies in their life, right? They'll have an epiphany about like something will happen, like somebody will get hurt, they'll get hurt. They'll have like a moment where they're like, is this it? Is this my life? Right? They'll have like a slap in the face kind of thing. Now, like as a learning designer, as a person who designs learning experiences, I don't always have, well, very rarely have any impact on the behavior of my learners, or not the behavior, sorry, the environment, right? I can't change that. I can't really impact how they do things in their life, what they decide to take up, their habits. But what I do have control over is the kind, if I can craft an experience that gives them an aha, I can actually do that. So one of those three I actually have some control over, which is kind of amazing, right? Like, I think that's amazing. So if you're looking to craft aha moments, you have to do several things. One of them is craft an interactive story that helps people get those ahas. The interactive story, that experience, there's elements to it. It's not complicated, but it takes some time because, and you saw the walks and things like that, it's a creative process, right? And some people are not ready for the creative process. Some people want to simply convert PowerPoint slides to HTML5, and that's cool. That's not the people I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are tired of that. No, that doesn't make any difference, really. They've been putting out that stuff forever, and now they want to do things that have impact. Because all those other things, the training, the performance support, doesn't go away. But you have to get people excited and motivated to get there, right? And then steer them towards your awesome tutorials, your awesome resources. But how do you get them excited about it? Through the computer, right? So at the end of this month, we're launching our new masterclass. The community is live now, and one of the things that, as you've seen the people that I've been talking about, they're in it, like they're committed. This is their passion. This isn't some sort of trend they're going for. They're not doing this for funsies. This is their life. They want to have impact, and and this is selfish as well. They want to put out stuff that they're proud of. When they put their digital signature on there, it says, I built that, and that's freaking awesome. That's how they want to feel. That's what they want to do. And that's who's in the community. That's who's giving you feedback on your work, which is pretty dope as far as I'm concerned. So if this is something you want to do, or you're thinking about how can I take myself to the next level, I would love to talk to you. So I'll put a link underneath the video so that if you want to create your very own broken coworker, because that's what we're doing, is that we can decide if this is something that I can help you with. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty exciting. It's work, and it's work. I want to share that too. This is work. This isn't like plug and play. Here's a template. Boop. There's templates and frameworks. Of course, we have that, but it's work. Is it satisfying work? F yeah. It's so good. Somebody stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch and participate, and then they stayed on for the full 2 hours to get their project going, because this is how passionate they are about it. this is where you want to be, right? This is where I want to be. So I hope you found this valuable. If you did, share it, like it. I will check your comments. I see there's a lot of people posting here. It's awesome. Thank you so much for your insight and being here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll probably see you here tomorrow, or I'll see you on the next strategy session if you book one. All right, take care, friends. Bye.